Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video. Today I am finally doing my September monthly musings that I kind of do every month, where I talk about the decks I used, maybe books I read, things I did in the month of September. This is basically my wrap up. And I'm just going to kind of launch right into it with starting with the fact that Oh, oh man. September, I'm not gonna lie, it started off with me thinking, oh, this could be a really good month. And then the month dragged on and it just started getting progressively worse and worse. And I'm just gonna be honest and upfront about that because, oh, sorry, burped. Honest and upfront about that because I I mean, I already had to mention in one of my community posts that bullshit really spiraled out at the end of September to the fact that it even kept me from having the energy and will to film and do anything. To try to be kind of quick about it is that work kind of picked up a little bit where a lot of just unfortunate things were happening. It was just getting very, very chaotic at my work. And somehow it led up to the fact that I ended up having a UTI. I don't know, again, I don't know how, but I ended up getting a UTI. And basically, so this was like very end of September, by the way. Basically, within that span of time, I find out I got a UTI. My cat also got a UTI, so that was awful because it's not her first, but it was just awful. But she had one at the same time, and that caused a lot of drama. But then also, my mom got like seriously injured and was in the hospital and bleeding. She was like fine-ish within like a day or two, but she basically had a nasty accident while running, and she basically ate shit on the concrete and busted her face. So all these things just made it not a great time. So basically, I ended September very, 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 very shitty of an experience. It was not great. But I'm saying all that to mention that it was all those things going on that kind of led September to being kind of a stale month. And the reason why I say that is because September, let me see if I can find it in here. I'm going to use one of the decks I used during the month. During the month of September, one of the decks I used was the Everyday Witch Tarot. And during the month of September, let me see if I can find it. My card of the month was supposed to be the Seven of... Wow, my camera's doing some like really weird bullshit. Give me a second. Anyways, it was supposed to be the Seven of Pentacles. But the thing about that is I don't really know to what end the Seven of Pentacles really lived out for me. I don't understand what seeds I was supposed to be planting, you know what I mean? Because just everything kind of just started happening at once. Unless it was one of those things where it was supposed to be that I was supposed to be paying attention enough to plant those seeds, and I just couldn't, and I dropped the ball. Who knows? But it was supposed to be that kind of month, and it didn't. Wow, I have looked through half this deck, and I can't find a 7. Watch it end up being like the last card, and I'm just going to rage quit, maybe. No, not rage quit, but you know, I'm just going to be a little annoyed. Maybe I already passed it and then you guys saw it, but I didn't see it. Yep, it was. Are you fucking serious? Anyways, this is what I'm talking about. I haven't had great luck, everyone. Yeah, Seven of Pentacles was supposed to be my card for the month of September, but I really don't know what progress I made, maybe career-wise. Oh, that was one thing that happened. Despite everything being really, really shitty during the month of September, I actually got a shout out at work about doing a really great job. Which is, I guess, a big deal when you work at a school. But yeah, people were noticing. So my card for the month was the Seven of Pentacles, and I don't know. I don't know where that leads me, because I know my October one, I'm not going to say it now, but I know my October card of the month, and it's not, it's not great. So yeah. Anyways, what was my tangent? During the month of September, everything was kind of shitty. So it meant that while I actually used a lot of decks during the month of September, I didn't do as many readings as I hoped to have done. And I wasn't always as in the mood to do a lot of tarot because, again, life was chaotic. I did keep watching shows. I did watch, I'm still continuing to watch the show Suits. I don't know if you guys know of that one. I don't know why I keep watching at this point, because there's like some parts that I'm just like, I'm so done. I'm so done with this show. I kind of want to move on and watch something else. But I didn't really. I did watch a movie during the month of September. I'm trying to, oh shoot, what was the name of it though? I watched a movie in September that was about but it's not called that. What is it called? But it's supposed to be about Gran Turismo, unless that is the name of the movie. Anyways, if I'm talking about that at this point, I'm going to put on the image somewhere here, an image of the movie I'm talking about. It was a racing movie, and I actually enjoyed it. I went with my partner to the theaters, and we saw it. That was one thing I actually did during the month of September. Another thing I did was we did have one day where we went on like a day trip in California, in Northern California. You can go on a lot of day trips to random things to do, just anywhere. Let's be honest, California is so big, there's like always something to do. And we went to a place I had never been before called Pescadero. It's a little more south of where I am, but it was a fun little day trip to get there, to get to the lighthouse. If I remember, I'm going to post, I'll have an image somewhere up here of the lighthouse or the surrounding area. Very beautiful. And I did enjoy that. But beyond those moments, it was, like I said, kind of a shit show at the end of the month. Everything spiraled out of control. And I'm just mindlessly shuffling. But before I talk about decks, actually, I do want to talk about how my reading went for the month of September. Because I'm going to be honest, it was almost non-existent. So I just started September. I don't know if you guys remember me talking about in my August Musings video, but I was finishing up Dune, and I think I finished, when I like cheated, but I was reading most of August and then finished it, maybe not. I don't know, but after coming off of Dune and those, Snow Falling on Cedars, that was the one I was thinking of. After coming off of Snow Falling on Cedars, not Dune, I was kind of in a bit of a reading slump, and so I tried to read something that I thought was going to be quick, and it just ended up taking me longer just because life was a shit show. I read this book. This is called Sandry's book by Tamora Pierce. This is actually the first book in the Circle of Magic. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is actually technically a reread for me. I first read this book when I was in middle school. Oh my God, it's so fucking old now. But I first read this book in middle school. And because I had read it so long ago, it actually did almost feel like I was reading it again for the first time. Except I did remember like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 little facts about like the main characters in this book. But this is a reread. This is a Tamora Pierce book. The basic gist of this one is that there are 4 children who each have like kind of one of these elements kind of represented. And they are kind of like misfits in this magical world where they didn't know they had magic powers until they were discovered by, what was his name? There was this guy, I think his name was Nick or something along the lines of Nick. It started with an N, I'm pretty sure. And he basically finds them all and brings them to this school so that they can be kind of bonded together because they're very special in their magic. Like a lot of people in this world have magic, but they were very special because they had a very specific kind that is very rare. Like one of them has like thread magic, the other one has plant magic, the other one controls like the weather, and there's another that does things with metal. So this was a cool reread. I found this book used. I got it from a used bookstore, and I'm kind of debating if I want to bother getting the rest. Not because I don't like this, but I feel like it would be a bigger project to try to get all of them. And I read them so long ago in middle school. It's just one of those things, like there's other stuff I'd rather reread or read before getting back to this. So I'm not sure, but this was enjoyable. I don't know if I liked it as much as I did when I was in middle school, but still a good read. I don't know. Maybe I would average it somewhere around 3-4 stars, but probably closer to 4 because I wasn't able to remember some things, so clearly I liked it at some point. But yeah, this was one of the 2 books I read during the months of September. The other book I read during September was Nona the Ninth. Okay, specifically, as you can see, I have the paperback version. So I actually had to wait for the paperback version of this book to come out. This has been out for a little bit now, maybe a year or more-ish. Like the hardcover came out. But I'm actually one of those weirdos who prefers paperback books to hardcovers. Hardcovers just take up more space on my shelf, and these are more transportable. So I like paperback. So I waited. And I have to say, Nona the Ninth, my thoughts on this, because I just kind of finished wrapping it up. Even though it's like October, I finished, like barely finished. At the time of me filming this, it's October. I barely finished this. Thoughts. I liked Nona the Ninth better than Harrow the Ninth. Harrow the Ninth, for those who don't know, is book number 2, and this is the Locked Tombs series. I liked Nona better than Harrow. I still think I like Gideon the Ninth the most, though, only because it made the most sense to me and in all those ways, but at the same time, Nona was more clearly written, if that makes any sense. I think Tamsin Muir, the author, is starting to kind of come into her own with her writing. This one felt the most coherent as a story, and the writing wasn't as convoluted as some of the other books have been. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest there. This one felt the most cohesively written. I liked Nona as a character. The bits at the end have me questioning how Alecto the Ninth is supposed to go. The last book that I think is going to come out sometime next year? Question mark. Anyone who likes the series more can tell me. I don't want to spoil too much of this one if you haven't read Gideon the Ninth, but I will say that this series, for those who don't know, has a lot to do about the basic tagline that people have always mentioned is that this is basically necromancers in space. So it's like slightly magical, but it's also sci-y, I mean, kind of vein. So this is definitely a speculative book, right? Right up my alley. There's a lot of queer rep in this book, but also just interesting rep on, how do I explain this? Like how people act, different kinds of people, different rep is shown. It's just, it's a really interesting series. I think it is innovative for both, I guess, sci-fi and the fantasy genre. Overall, though, I would recommend Gideon the Ninth. If you have not read Gideon, I do recommend that one. Harrow was very fucking confusing, and this book was a lot better in explaining things. So that's my overall thoughts. I would still put this probably close. Nona, I would probably put closer to probably a 4-star. Yeah, I would say about 4-star read. I do like this, though, better than, again, Harrow. I don't know what it was about trying to read Harrow the Ninth. It was so confusing, but yeah, this one, much better. But yeah, the month of September was so hard, I only read 2 books. But I did use a lot of tarot decks, so as I already showed, the Everyday Witch Tarot Mini was one deck that I used during the month of September. I only used this deck for 1 week ahead reading, but I thought about using this deck more. Actually. That's the end of my thought. I thought about using it more, and I just did not. For those who don't know, this is a Llewellyn-based deck. It's kind of interesting because there's things about it that seem like it's very witchy. There's a cat in almost every single card. Almost every, but not all. Kind of witchy of a deck. But then there's weird touches where there's like more modern, like this. It feels slightly more modern. But then it's also like kind of witchy campy. Overall, it's an interesting deck, but it's fun. And I am actually surprised by a lot of the cards because they're not depicting. It's not a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. Let me just make that straight up. It's not a Rider-Waite-Smith clone because it does do a lot of interesting takes with the cards and their depictions. And this is the one I'm talking about where it kind of feels more modern. And I don't know how I feel about that all the time. But because this deck is so small for me too, I kind of allow it. And I don't mind it. It's become a good. I've been using this because it's tiny. I've been using this as like a travel deck. And that's what I always tend to do with my minis. But yeah, that was the Everyday Witch Tarot. This is one deck that I use in the month of September. Also in the month of September, I'm going to talk about this one first, actually. I also use the Threadbound Oracle. This is a deck by Cedar McLeod. This is an indie deck. And it is an oracle actually based on Cedar's books. They have books, like fiction books, I mean. And so this is an oracle inspired by that. But the oracle itself is really beautiful. The cardstock, I don't 100% know if I like it. It's like an art. You can definitely tell it's very papery, like art papery. And yeah, it has like a, there you go. You might be able to see it, the waffle texture. I love the art. I do like the keywords on the cards. But I found, and I'm going to talk about this in my last 10 decks video too, but I found that trying to use more than one of these cards, like to do like a 3-card oracle, it felt very busy to me. And I think the reason why is because each card on the deck has 3 keywords. So it felt like a lot of keywords I had to like sift through, and I couldn't sparse down the meaning sometimes on its own because of that. But the art itself is stunning. I love the diversity in it. That's why I can't wait to read the stories that this is based off of. Like the series, I mean. But I feel like I'll probably even more enjoy it once I do that. Because for now, I just was left. I don't know. It wasn't working for me. And so partway through the month, I actually had to switch to a different oracle. Because this one was not working as my one oracle of the month. And that deck, if this one will ever go back in. There we go. That one deck that I had to switch to was my handy dandy Coastal Curiosities. This is an oracle deck by Lennox Reese, and I am sorry to say that I recently found out this went out of print because there's no more. Everyone bought up finally the second edition, so there's no more of this. I'm so sorry that I'm even showing it for that reason, but Lennox is coming out with a tarot soon, I heard, so I'm following the Kickstarter page for that, and Lennox already has my money, so sorry, that's just gonna be what it is. But this deck always does it for me. It's something about the keywords that are just so, they work for me because they're very precise. And the images also do it for me. And the things that they depict are things that, I don't know, they're just like very relatable to where I live. Lennox lives in Oregon, I believe, close to Portland, if I'm not mistaken. And living in Northern California, not the most north you can go in California, but like more Northern California. A lot of the things depicted are things I either grew up around or saw a lot, or aesthetics that were very common. So this feels very close to home. And so for that reason, this deck always works for me. So I use this in the last half of the month of September, but even then, because life was so crazy, I did not pull this deck out as much as I thought I would. I will probably use this again. I don't know when, but yeah. It was nice as a going back to point, because I used this deck more a lot last year in 2022, but yeah, I've been trying to use some more oracles during my time. Anyways, another deck that I used during the month of September was the Greer Tarot in a tin. This is a deck that is still newer to me. It's not newer to pretty much everybody else, but I was very back and forth on this deck for a long time. These are the backs, by the way. I like the size of this deck, though. That's the best thing. It is smaller. I could carry it around more easily because it is in a tin. And this deck, to be honest, I only used this deck once during the month, and it was for one of my week ahead spreads, but it worked. It did its job. The colors, though, I felt fit the vibe of September, so I did like that. And yeah, this is just a classic. You know, there's not much I can say on it. There's some things about this deck that I still find so weird. Like, I do find it interesting. I don't know what the significance and the choice was of this being the only person of color in this whole deck. I don't know. Like, why? When the rest are all like, I don't know, 70s porn stash dudes, or like this. You know, I don't know. I'm still sifting through my thoughts, but I do enjoy this. It's a funny one. It's an interesting deck. I'm kind of glad I have it now. But yes, I also used the Greer Tarot during the month of September. But what I also used during the month of September was a deck I did not think I was going to use, but I did use this for something. What did I use this for? I could look at my tarot journal, but I'm kind of lazy. Oh, no, I did do this, I think, for a week ahead spread. I also used this to get ready for my 6-month ahead spread. My 6-month ahead spread, yeah. I used that at the very end of September, so that was a cloudy time, and I don't know if I liked how that reading went. You guys can see that on Instagram. I'm debating if I want to share what my cards were otherwise, because I'm still processing through them. But the Guided Hand Tarot is a collage style deck by Irene Mudd. This deck is, you guys already know, this is one of my faves. The colors and everything just felt like very September for me, so I did use it for a reading or two during the month. I was not using this deck, though, as much. I was actually more called to use the last 2 decks I'm going to show more than this one, but I did use this a little bit, so I thought, you know, I need to mention it, obviously, because this was one of the ones I picked for September. And it's still a good deck. I just found myself, interestingly enough, especially in the beginning of the month of September, when things were still like relatively good, and I was like looking forward to September because I thought it was, I don't know, I thought it would have potential for me instead of being a shit show. I was more drawn to use the next 2 decks I'm going to show, because they just felt very, I don't know what the vibe was. They just felt very much like September decks for me. And I did actually also mention them in my 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 tarot, I believe. Must have been there. The first of the 2 is the Lioness Oracle Tarot. I basically am going to say this already in my last 10 decks video that I will be doing. But I know, I was supposed to pick one or the other, and eventually I ended up with this deck anyways. You can understand what I'm saying if you watch the other video. But the Lioness Oracle Tarot, this is an oldie for a lot. This deck is kind of unwieldy for me. Look at how big it is compared to my hand. This is how you know, like, this deck is, like, how I have small hands, because this deck is, like, massive. I cannot even wrap my fingers around them. But I do like the cards. I do like the card stock. I do like... I don't know. I was just surprised how much I was drawn to this deck. I used this deck quite a few times during the month of September. I used it for week ahead spreads. I think I did I did a tarot interview with this deck, which ended up being really, really nice. I also, I feel like I did another reading with this, but at the moment I can't remember what that reading was. Sorry, I'm like blowing away because I saw a fly. Anyways, this deck is very surprising in how much I do like it. Again, there was a point in time where I didn't think I was going to own this deck. And again, I'm going to explain myself a little bit in the last 10 decks, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I've actually filmed these out of order. I think you guys will be seeing this one before you see my last 10 decks video. But still, I'll justify it then. Don't at me right now. But I do like this deck. It's close to home. The creator is from Oakland, California, which is near me, but not like incredibly close to me, but near me. And yeah, this one is just great. I was surprised how much I liked it though, because this is definitely one of the more feminine, I don't like using that word, but like more of that spectrum of gender and sexuality and whatever than I usually go for, but at the same time, this deck really works for me. It is very big, though. I wish it was a little smaller for my little bitty hands, but this was like a very September-ish vibe for me. So as soon as I got a hold of this deck, after having a good deal, I was using it all of September. But I also use this deck a lot. This is, this bag, by the way, is a Kelly Bear bag. Thank you, Kelly. I don't know if she sees my videos anymore, but I love this bag still. This deck in here houses my ZernerFarber Tarot. And this deck was such an early September vibe for me. I don't know what it was. These are the backs. This deck also has like matte gold, glittery edges. The ZernerFarber was a really good hit at the beginning of the month of September when I still had the energy to do readings. I did a couple spreads actually with this deck, as well as using it for one of my week aheads. I don't know. There's something about this deck now that kind of just like crawled into my soul. I talked about it in the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 tarot video that I have, but this deck is very much like one of my tarot aesthetics. Like if I had to bottle up the essence of who I am and like personality and like aesthetics and things I am attracted to, this deck would be in there, as well as the guided hand tarot. Such a good one. Such a good one. Again, an oldie, but new to me because this is now a new edition of this. As you can see, this deck is pretty small. It's been known as Enchanted Tarot, has had been a lot bigger with like garish borders and all this kind of stuff. Some of the borders were cool, but the cards themselves were just too unusable because they were so long. But this deck is so good, you know? So good. And I did use it and I did like it during the month of September. It's just a shame that life kind of shot the bucket because then I couldn't really I don't know. I just didn't have the energy, guys. So for the month of October, despite knowing what my card of the month is, which I will also talk about next month, despite everything kind of going to shit a little bit in October, I want to have hope that the rest of the month might end up better for me. I don't really know. But it did make it hard to want to do tarot-related things. Despite the fact, by the way, random other side note, is that the month of September, I was actually getting a lot of decks into my collection. You'll see what most of those were actually in my last 10 decks video. You'll find out what decks those were, but I did get some more. But despite that, I actually wasn't doing as much tarot. So maybe October, spoopy season, it'll change and I'll have a lot of cool things to talk about, especially because the decks I'm using in October are really freaking cool in my opinion. So there's that to look forward to, I hope, for all of you. But I'm actually going to close this out now because I still feel not the best, even though by now I've gotten over most of my UTI related issues. It was just, I don't know, I'm just not feeling the best emotionally and probably just physically too, because the kids at my work are sicky, gross little beings. But anyways, I will see you guys all again next time. Thank you for watching, especially if you are a returner. And also, though, if you're new, I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, I'll see you guys all again next time. Bye.